What's up guys, my name is Brandon, welcome to Quick Flicks. Today, Tallahassee, Columbus, Wichita, and Little Rock return, as we'll be covering Zombieland Double Tap, releasing in 2019, directed by Ruben Fleischer, who was just getting done directing Venom. The last time we saw these four, they drove off into the zombified world after a wild night at Pacific Playland back in California. After a decade of many rewrites, one script including the group searching for a home, and end up finding a community at a football stadium in Dallas, Texas. There was actually going to be a main bad guy in that version, but as you'll find out, most of that was scrapped. Writers Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese took time to work on other projects, including Deadpool 1 and 2, which if you're wondering, I will definitely cover both of those someday. After many years, they finally got the Zombieland 2 script greenlit, and thus we got the long-awaited sequel after a decade. But was it worth the wait? Let's find out and get to the movie. Spoiler alert, was definitely worth the wait. The movie opens up with a voiceover by Columbus, greeting the viewers and introducing the new types of zombies that have taken over Zombieland. Homer, which is a really dumb zombie, Hawking, which is the complete opposite and being extremely smart, and Ninja, which is pretty self-explanatory, just a really stealthy zombie. We meet back up with the gang in Washington, D.C., who play shoot 'em up in slow motion with the zombies as Metallica's Master of Puppets blast in the background. Once the gang cleans the house of flesh-eating fools, Tallahassee, Columbus, Wichita, and Little Rock gain entry into the deserted White House. We're treated to a montage of the gang enjoying the little things before slowing down and focusing on the relationship between Wichita and Columbus, who are having a lovely discussion on whether Abraham Lincoln should watch them do the do or not. We transition over to Tallahassee and Little Rock inside a garage. The two discuss romance, and Little Rock expresses her longing for companionship. Tallahassee, being Tallahassee, laughs off this notion and tells her they're her family, and that's all she needs. The next day, the gang celebrates Christmas, despite it only being November 17th, and Wichita hands Columbus an original copy of the first Lord of the Rings book. Tallahassee's up to the plate to share his gifts, and guess what he got Little Rock? If you said a Colt 45, then you're correct. But not just any Colt 45, it's actually the Colt that Elvis gave Nixon. Little Rock isn't too thrilled about getting another gun, and decides to leave the festivities to shoot some zombies down at the reflecting pool. More voiceover narration from Columbus, who details Little Rock's plight to hunt for a boyfriend, and their rule of keeping distance from other strangers in the outside world. Later, Columbus is in bed reading a classic Walking Dead novel, taking some shots at the popular franchise.
God, this is really terrifying, but totally unrealistic.
Once he puts the comic down, he notices Wichita's concern for Little Rock and ensures her that everything will be okay. Wichita remains worried about Little Rock. Columbus decides to propose to her with a huge ring any woman would gush over. Naturally, Wichita isn't a fan of this based on her opinions regarding marriage. Columbus pulls the pressure off of Wichita by letting her decide when it's best to give him an answer. And of course, the next morning, Wichita does her usual, stealing the beast and running off with Little Rock before Columbus wakes up. We see Wichita and Little Rock speeding down the road in Beast, and they both express their griefs about Tallahassee and Columbus. While babbling, Wichita comes seconds away from running over our first new character in Zombieland, Berkeley, who's instantly smitten by Little Rock. We go back to Columbus, and takes out his stress riding segways down at the mall with Tallahassee, who goes bonkers over Columbus complaining about Wichita leaving. After Tallahassee's rambling speech about going on the road again, both men encounter a zombie, and Tallahassee quickly takes care of it in style. But unfortunately for him, he couldn't quite achieve the new Zombie Kill of the Year award, which was given to Dave Sanderman of Riverside, Iowa, mowing down an unlucky zombie out in the middle of nowhere. That was pretty freaking sick. Tallahassee reveals a deep and dark secret to Columbus, which is that he has Native American blood coursing through his veins. He rambles on about his Native American ancestors, Columbus sneaking away on his Segway and going to a candle shop to embrace the beautiful fragrance. A weird noise gets Columbus's attention, and he fires off a gunshot. However, that shot luckily misses our new character, Madison. Columbus and Madison introduce themselves to each other, being a little flirty, much to the disgust of Tallahassee, who strolls in on the two hugging. The three end up back in the White House, and Tallahassee makes it clear to Columbus that he needs to get rid of Madison. Madison and Columbus take a tour through the White House that ends with them doing the dirty deed between the sheets as Tallahassee listens in horror. A loud noise rocks the White House, and Tallahassee goes to investigate with his flintlock in hand. I just have to say, this made me laugh extremely hard for some reason. Who thinks to use a heckin' flintlock to defend themselves instead of his more advanced firearm? Anyway, Columbus eventually joins him, and the two find an old friend who has returned for some guns, Wichita. Wichita reveals that Little Rock has run away with Berkeley, the nice hippie with a guitar that Tallahassee definitely doesn't seem to like. We get a flashback of Little Rock being wooed by Berkeley and eventually leaving Wichita stranded after giving her a note. You know, what they typically do to the guys. Tallahassee promises to help find Little Rock before storming off, leaving Wichita and Columbus all alone. She finally admits that her stick-it note was lame and apologizes. This little heartwarming moment between Wichita and Columbus is interrupted by Madison, who asks Columbus if he's coming back to bed. This of course ruins Columbus's chance of rekindling his flame with Wichita. The next morning, the gang is all set to find Little Rock, but Tallahassee is not too happy that he has to drive a minivan. His inner Elvis fandom comes out, and he ends up making his first rule: it takes a real man to drive a Cadillac. He eventually accepts the minivan as the ride, but does some damage to the side mirror to release some anger. Well, at least he tried. Tallahassee, Wichita, and Columbus put their belongings in the car and are ready to take off. However, Madison and her pink bags come down the White House steps. Tallahassee offering to put Madison's bags into the truck, but as soon as she gets into the car, he says heck it. Rule number 7, travel light. Madison tries to bond with Wichita for a moment. It should be noted how well Zoe Deutsch plays the dumb blonde stereotype. She's honestly a great actress, and in fact, the cast had a hard time keeping a straight face while filming with her, due to how funny she is and how perfectly she portrays her character. Another rift between Columbus and Wichita happens once Madison is showcased wearing Wichita's engagement ring, unbeknownst to Columbus himself. The two have a back and forth spat about Columbus's proposal until Tallahassee abruptly stops the car, sending Madison flying into the front seat, breaking rule number 4, wear your seatbelt. Tallahassee gets out of the car. Wichita mocks the loving relationship between Columbus and Madison. On the deserted roadway, Columbus is practicing rule number 18, limber up, as Tallahassee looks at an RV through binoculars. The two agree that the big vehicle would be an improvement over their current minivan. After a few jokes and sarcastic quips at the expense of Madison, they all finally make it to the RV, and our lovable bubblehead sets off the alarm by opening the door. This sets Tallahassee, Wichita, and Columbus in action, and the three work as a collective unit, killing off zombies, with Columbus on the watch for the horde and giving off time codes on which direction the zombies are coming from. The gang kills all of the zombies without much problem, until the T-800 shows up. Yes, the T-800, as in the Terminator. Which, by the way, I will definitely cover those movies sometime. I mean, Terminator 2 is literally one of the best films of all time. How can I not cover those? It takes a metric freak ton of bullets and a nasty stomp to the head to finally put this guy down. We head back over to Berkeley, who's still putting on the charm by playing the guitar as Little Rock drives loopy and blazed out of her mind. Now that Tallahassee, Columbus, Wichita, and Madison have cleaned the house, these four are ready to move on to their new RV. Tallahassee gives us the honor of reciting a fun little poem before taking off.
Traveling to Graceland in comfort and class. That Pontiac transport can kiss my ass. Here we go, baby!
But as soon as Tallahassee drives past the gate, his tires blow out due to the road spikes guarding the lot. Tallahassee points out a truck with a clown on top, but if you remember correctly, Columbus is definitely not a fan of clowns. Back to the minivan. Much to Tallahassee's dismay, the gang sets off on the road, and all is calm and peaceful as Madison expresses her desire to start a company eerily similar to Uber. But since the zombie apocalypse started in 2009, Uber was never around in this timeline. After Tallahassee and Wichita rag on her idea, she displays symptoms of being a potential zombie. Eventually, Tallahassee pulls the minivan over, and Madison gets out and pukes. Fun fact, the zombie vomit consists of pudding, Nilla wafers, and almond milk. The Nilla wafers give it the chunky texture. Meanwhile, the other three discuss killing Madison, with Columbus being against the idea. Columbus is convinced to be the brave little toaster and kill Madison. He follows Madison deep into the forest and tries to calm her down, but all she can do is vomit. We go back to Tallahassee and Wichita as they hear 2 gunshots fired off in the forest. Tallahassee and Wichita express their condolences over Madison, but bicker briefly once again. Time passes by, and the gang ends up at the Hound Dog Hotel. They notice the beast is parked right outside. Tallahassee, Wichita, and Columbus enter with their guns ready to shoot and examine the hotel that is stacked with fun Elvis memorabilia. Wichita goes off to find Little Rock, and Tallahassee continues to explore the house and finds a sweet piano. Of course, one can't just pass a beautiful piano, so Tallahassee sits down and plays some music and sings a fine tune. During this time, we see Wichita check the hotel for Little Rock, and Columbus roams around the hallways himself. While Tallahassee is playing, he gets his fingers crushed and his face busted by our new character, Nevada, who comes close to murdering the poor fool. Cooler heads prevail as everyone gets acquainted with one another. Nevada reveals that Little Rock and Berkeley left the hotel several days earlier. Wichita asks where the 2 lovebirds could be going, and it's revealed that Little Rock and Berkeley are heading to Babylon. Berkeley explains the whole vibe of Babylon, where there are no guns or violence of any kind there. Fun fact, production designer Martin Wiss said the entire team had a blast creating Babylon. They had a very limited budget and very limited amount of time, but they still created something special. I mean, just look at this place, it looks really cool. We see Berkeley driving in his new ride as a ton of zombies chase after their car. We go back to the hotel, where Tallahassee and Nevada are bonding over their love for Elvis. Another fun fact, Tallahassee explaining the time he impressed the cutest girl in school with Elvis Presley impersonations was actually a true story about how he broke into the film business as an actor. In The Late Show with James Corden, Harrelson revealed that a girl named Robin Rogers complimented his acting and encouraged him to pursue a career in Hollywood. Berkeley and Little Rock are finally arriving at the safe haven known as Babylon. The Babylonian gatekeeper greets them and states that no guns are allowed, and most importantly, no group humping. Little Rock hands all of her guns to the bearded guy, and they enter into the zombie-free paradise. At the hotel, Nevada is sleeping peacefully until Tallahassee, who's now dressed as Elvis in full gear, wakes her by imitating Elvis. Tallahassee's dance and song sequence are interrupted by a loud horn outside. Immediately, Nevada, Tallahassee, Columbus, and Wichita rush out the door to find Beast crushed by a monster truck, which infuriates Tallahassee. Stepping out of the monster truck is Albuquerque, a very eerily similar doppelganger to Tallahassee. Fun fact, Albuquerque was actually originally going to be played by Ryan Reynolds. I honestly think that would have been amazing. We get some fun back and forth banter between the two. Getting out of the monster truck next is Flagstaff, which is Columbus's doppelganger, who originally was actually going to be played by Michael Cera, but he turned it down unfortunately. Could you imagine Ryan Reynolds and Michael Cera stepping out of the monster truck? That would have just been perfect. Wichita is dumbfounded over Columbus's exact look-alike, though Columbus doesn't see the resemblance. Flagstaff mentions that he has a list of commandments, him and Columbus getting into a little competition over their rules. The overall sequence with Jesse Eisenberg and Thomas Middleditch going at each other is just hilarious. Nevada ends the fun by questioning why Flagstaff and Albuquerque have returned, them responding by saying there were too many zombies. The gang gets acquainted with one another inside until a loud noise grabs their attention, that noise being 3 T-800s attacking their monster truck. Tallahassee and Albuquerque have a hot dog measuring contest before deciding that Albuquerque and Flagstaff will be the ones to kill the T-800s outside. The duo goes out and shoot like madmen, as Tallahassee, Nevada, Wichita, and Columbus watch unimpressed from inside the hotel. Proud of their epic battle against the T-800s, Albuquerque and Flagstaff compliment each other as they re-enter the hotel until Nevada notices a zombie bite on Albuquerque's arm. He waves it off as a tattoo, which Columbus essentially calls BS on. Soon enough, Albuquerque starts vomiting, and it doesn't take long for Flagstaff to join in. Both men turn into T-800s, and we get a really cool one-take fight scene that goes throughout the entire hotel, of Columbus and Tallahassee taking on Albuquerque and Flagstaff. It's really cool, and I definitely recommend checking out the behind the scenes on this. Eventually, both zombies are killed by Tallahassee and Nevada. We get another zombie kill of the year with Matteo from Pisa, Italy, who gets rid of our flesh-eating friends thanks to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I honestly love this so much. I really do. Back at the hotel, the gang says their goodbyes to Nevada, though Tallahassee gets in a little smooch. He then tries to drive the monster truck, but he took on a little more than he can chew. The gang sets sail with the minivan instead. Wichita and Columbus seem to finally hit a turning point in their relationship, until a mystery clown car is ahead. Who's in it, you may ask? Oh yeah, it's Madison. After all, Columbus never actually killed her. It's revealed that she had an allergic reaction to some peanuts. She wasn't actually turning into a zombie. Madison reunites with everyone once again, and the love triangle between her, Columbus, and Wichita commences. We then get a fun montage of the gang driving to Babylon. Once there, Tallahassee gets into it with the Babylonian gatekeeper about the no guns rule, but not before he puts a grenade inside the minivan. Finally did the damage he wanted. Eventually, he complies, and everyone finally gets into Babylon. Tallahassee, Wichita, and Columbus happily greet Little Rock, who's a bit surprised to see the gang there. Despite their disagreement over Babylon, Tallahassee sees how happy Little Rock is. Later that evening, Tallahassee feels like he's done his job. He says his goodbyes to the entire group and sets off on his journey. While driving, a T-800 randomly jumps out of nowhere, Tallahassee hitting it. He then notices an entire swarm heading toward Babylon due to the fireworks they're setting off. Tallahassee eventually bursts back into the place and informs everybody about the T-800s. The gang puts a plan into motion, and the bloodthirsty zombies come storming in at the first sight of fireworks. The zombies gather into a horde, and the gang's trap finally explodes, killing quite a few of them. Ew, now that they've taken care of all of them, all they gotta do is take care of the stragglers. Not too big of a deal.
Oh shit. Would those be considered the stragglers?
Oh boy.
The zombies surround their platform. They try taking all of them on with their weapons. There's just too darn many of them. All hope seems lost and the gang says their goodbyes, until Nevada bursts in with her monster truck and crushes the giant horde of zombies. Tallahassee, Little Rock, Wichita, and Columbus are relieved, and they hop into the truck with Nevada, and she goes on an insane monster truck killing spree. Fun fact, the monster truck was always an idea to have in the movie. Ever since the very first renditions of the script, the writers knew from the very beginning that they wanted something to do with the monster truck in this movie, and well, here it is. And honestly, I'm all for it. The monster truck flips over after an incredible jump and run for the tall building of Babylon, with some help from Madison, Berkeley, and their other friends. The gang put their cardio to good use as they run up the stairs, as the horde follows closely behind. Tallahassee fends the zombies off, so that Little Rock, Wichita, Nevada, and Columbus can escape. Tallahassee makes his way to the roof, and he writes his name in the Zombieland history books by leading the Great American Zombie Jump. This essentially just wiping out the entire horde. But two zombies defy the odds and grab onto Tallahassee. After a fun game of hacky sack to the balls, Little Rock blasts the zombie cop in the head with the Elvis Colt 45 that she snuck in, and they both fall to their doom. They help Tallahassee down, and the gang celebrates their victory. And Wichita says yes to Columbus's marriage proposal. After he puts the ring on her finger, they kiss. Nevada and Tallahassee following after. We even get a new couple in Madison and Berkeley. A homer catches their attention though, as he just walks on by and kills himself by jumping over the ledge. The gang then parties. The next morning, Tallahassee, Wichita, Little Rock, Nevada, and Columbus are on the road again, and they drive off happily ever after. And the screen fades to black. However, we get an after-credit scene of Bill Murray before the apocalypse doing an interview for his upcoming hit film, Garfield 3 Flabby Tabby. The interview is interrupted by a fan who wants to take a photo with him, but the fan starts vomiting and turns into a zombie, killing a lady. Murray takes him out with a folding chair, WWE style, and goes out to the lobby of the building to see total chaos. He don't care though, and takes care of quite a few zombies in style. He leaves us off with hating Mondays, and the movie officially ends. Let me know what you guys thought of both of these movies. I personally enjoyed both of them a lot. It was a lot of fun to cover. And also, if you guys have any suggestions, just leave them down below. And if you enjoy, make sure to hit that sub button. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and I really appreciate the nice comments you guys have been leaving lately. It really does mean a lot. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.